What is a stem cell? In The Proteus Effect by Amby Parson, she defines a stem cell as an unspecialized cell that is capable of generating, via its progeny, differentiated cells and or more cells like itself, which would be more stem cells. The stem cell got its name because of its unique ability to give rise to different cell types, sometimes through the life of an organism. In contrast, when a specialized cell divides, it generates more of itself and for a limited number of divisions. There are various types of stem cells, and Parson categorizes them in two groups. Embryonic stem cells are the stem cells in the early embryo. They're the ones that can make any cell anytime. There's no differentiation there. Adult stem cells are found in the bone marrow, liver, intestine, brain, and skin. They're more differentiated, and they can make more themselves or what their tissue specifically needs. What all that means is that the embryonic stem cell has the ability to become whatever cell we need it to be. An adult stem cell can duplicate itself and become any cell that its specific tissue needs. Stem cell research is vital to the world's health, and that it can be used to test new drugs' effectiveness. It can take from an umbilical cord. The stem cells can be used for a sort of health insurance for the mother, father, baby, and any siblings, and possibly grandparents. And it can, if you take it from the bone marrow or whatever else organ that has it in the adult, you can treat leukemia and Parkinson's. I'd like to talk to you about stem cell research and what it means to the patients of cancer, Parkinson's, and healthy babies and their families. The National Institute of Health Stem Cell Information website says that the stem cell can be used to research new drugs. For example, they're using cancer cells to test anti-tumor drugs, and the only problem is that the scientists, they can use the stem cells. They're pluripotent, which means that they can do all that different stuff, but they have to have very tight control, so the scientists aren't using it yet because they don't have that level of control, because you have to have a certain string. It's very detailed. But when they do have the ability to control their environment well enough, it will be a wonderful day for drugs and medicine. With something as seemingly small as pharmaceutical testing, we would think that stem cell research really isn't that extraordinary, but stem cells found in the umbilical cord can save lives. In the Proteus Effect again, Parson tells the story of a hematologist-oncologist doctor who, on the way to the hospital, he calls their cord bank, basically, for their child to make sure everything's ready. The cord blood is really only about 3 ounces, but the stem cells in it work as a really basic health insurance. The doctor, the baby, wife, and other children, if any of them get anything life-threatening, they can use the stem cells to make healthy cells and then put them in your body, and your body will fix itself. These are the pluripotent stem cells that can replicate nearly any cell in the body, so if someone gets a spinal injury or leukemia, there's a very real possibility that stem cells taken from the cord blood will be able to improve the health of the sick. Adult stem cells, are fewer than what they would be found in the embryo, but they're still there. As stated in the introduction, they are in the skin, liver, bone marrow, brain, and the intestine. The first stem cell therapy that they really didn't know it was stem cell therapy was a bone marrow transplant. There is a doctor named Shavan Slavin in Israel. He uses adult stem cells to do gene therapy, improve blood stem cell transplantation, and they're working to eliminate the chemical factor of treating cancer by using stem cells and lymphocytes. Working to remove the chemotherapy and radiation from the cancer equation sounds like a blessing. Those treatments are painful and they make you sick. If doctors use stem cells to help patients recover from substantially less pain, why, we may ask, is there such a problem with stem cell research? The controversy is in the embryonic stem cell. Mike Beebe, in his book, Do the Right Thing, says that the biggest argument is moving the boundary of when life begins. He also goes on to say that other stem cells found in the umbilical cord and adult stem cells are just as good as the embryonic. According to another source, The Language of Life by Francis Collins, these adult and umbilical are multipotency, which means they can't differentiate as much as the embryonic because they are the basic cell. They're basically clean states that can replicate into whatever we need them to be. In Faith and Politics by Senator John Danforth, He asserts that the right wing and the religious right argue the point of life beginning with the blastocyst, which is just the egg. They're afraid of human cloning, even though pretty much the entire scientific community is just like, no way. He also points out that opponents of stem cell research say that the embryo, every embryo, even those that exist outside the womb, are a human life, and we should not destroy life to save life. But Dan Borth, along with other scientists and doctors, point out that those embryos were never meant, they're in vitro, and they were never meant to be planted or fertilized. They're there just in case. So, they're talking about the blastocysts, which are the egg, and like I said, they won't be, there's never meant to be any fertilization, so it's purely on religious doctrine that they're arguing this. So therein lies a problem. The religious sector is pushing the government to consider life beginning with an egg, whether it is fertilized or not, whether it is meant to be placed in the womb or not. For the past little while, I've spoken to you about the controversy that is stem cell research. To most people, stem cell research sounds like a ray of sunshine in a raging storm. The possibility of mending a spinal cord, curing leukemia, or being able to save a family member from a deathly illness with cells our body already has made or it makes is a wonderful idea. It really comes down to embryonic stem cells and when life begins. Those extreme religious groups push the government and society to accept life beginning with the blastocyst. So much research says that's not exactly true. By using in vitro eggs that would have been thrown out anyway, why don't we use them to better our way of life and maybe cure some of the horrible diseases that riddle mankind? Thank you. Yes, please.
Okay, so if I were to have a baby, she will someday. So if I have a baby, are the sources available for me to have those stem cells from the cord set aside?
Yes, there are banks. He was at Brigham in Boston, and his bank was in Philadelphia, maybe, I think.
So God forbid something were to happen to my family, but anybody with the same bloodline as that child, we could use those stem cells and basically do a transplant, like a bone marrow transplant.
Something happened to me, Riley.
Anybody in my bloodline.
Yeah. You could use that to hopefully make things work. They've done tests where there was a woman who'd had a stroke and she was paralyzed, and the testing wasn't done for experimental reasons. It was just done to see if there were going to be like a toxicity thing if you use too many of them, and shit worked.
Wow.
Yes.
Where are the risks when you take the stem cells out of the embryo?
Well, if you take it from the cord,
There's
there
no
risks?
Okay.
Because you get like a kit. They said it looks like a shoebox, and they just suck it out of the umbilical cord and they store it in little vials.
Because that umbilical cord is going to be tossed anyway. You don't do anything with it.
And
So if you can potentially take blood out of there that can save lives, why would you not?
Yeah, it's potentially very expensive, but at the same time, if you get enough people working on it and there's federal funding, then there's...
Isn't there a procedure where you can take out of the womb or out of the... while it's still in you, they like put a needle in there and extract...
There's something to do with the placenta, but I'm not positive what that is. That's, you can use something with the placenta, but I didn't read a lot about that.
I know you can do like testing with the placenta, like if they're going to have Down syndrome or something like that, you can pull fluid into
the blood in the cord is the big deal.
Well, that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, I'm all for it.
Yeah. That's definitely.
Didn't Obama approve it?
Yeah. He actually, Bush, they're called the presidential lawns, and there's about 12 of them that he only approved after like August 9th of that year. You couldn't use any more. You couldn't get any more from anybody. And only the National Institute of Health had them. Everybody else had to get them for privately funded stuff.
12 stem cells? Just 12?
12 lines.
Oh.
And so, and they used mice a lot. They cured a monkey with Parkinson's.
Oh, gosh.
They've cured, this is crazy. There was a man named Yuri, and he's in Germany, and he had full-blown AIDS, and then he got leukemia as on top of it. His doctor was like, shot in the dark, we'll try stem cells. Fix the leukemia, and he has not tested positive for AIDS since.
Oh my God.
Isn't that amazing?
Huge deal.
It's a huge deal.
I mean, if
they're going to chunk these embryos that aren't even babies anyway,